prompts unsolicited advice? Do you have any idea? I have been thinking about this. I actually posted a kind of a long post onto Facebook, but it got quite a few responses, and I was surprised to have so many people read it through. And I could tell they read it through by the responses. But what stimulated this post and me to want to speak about it more as an exploration is I was taking a break. I go to this local retreat garden that has hot tubs and saunas and massage. And I was in the sauna and I was curious about a book that a woman was reading in there, and it was called Jungle Gene. And it's about the woman who founded the continuum concept, or at least, yeah, I think she started a school. I read the book a long time ago, but I understand what it's about. She did this study deep in the jungle of working with people or studying them off the grid and how they take care of their children and how different it is from a modern culture. So I was curious about the book, and we started into this conversation. And she told me about her own children and who she was and this and that. And then she asked me about myself and about my children. So I told her how I had my first birth at home without any interruption. And I pretty much didn't even have a midwife. She came just in time at the end. But I was preparing for a natural birth and it was ecstatic. It was the highlight of my life to be able to trust that my body and my baby know how to birth well without any interference. And this really fortified so many things in my life. And it was 2 years later, I had a radical interruption by medical protocols. I ended up on a helicopter to Stanford. And once I arrived there on that turf, I wasn't really even able to have my midwife come in and visit. So I didn't have support, or everything happened so quickly. It was quite shocking. My system was in shock. And I didn't need to be there. I really needed to go home and be on bed rest. I was having Braxton Hicks. Well, it's kind of a long story, but I've written a book about it, and I'm about to publish a new book, and I'm sorting out the name for that right now with my publishing team. But it's a vulnerable story, and unfortunately, it's not a uncommon story, and becoming more common birth interventions that create some harm for both the mother and the child and interfere with natural hormonal production like oxytocin and all the benefits of that for the baby and the mother, for the healthy attachment and bonding. Not to say that that is lost completely, it can be re-stimulated in the body, and I was able to do that with my twins, although they have ended up with pretty serious disabilities that they'll have for their life. And we've been navigating a very different course, one that I would have never expected, given my first birth and given that I was, pretty much a healthy woman. My body was healthy, and I had a successful birth, so I wasn't really pre-exposed to having problems. So this was pretty much created. Anyways, that's not the point of this. That's a whole story in itself, and you can read about it, and I hope that you do. But what this woman did, as soon as I started to tell her that my daughters have disabilities, she launched into this series of um, unsolicited advice. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? What about this? What about that? Even before I would answer, she would go on to another intention that she had for my girls on how I could fix them, how I could improve upon them, how I could make them better, how I could keep moving without allowing them to just be as they are. And I listened for a while I'm sweating and sweating and sweating, and drip is pouring off my body. And at a certain point, I just said, it's time for the cold plunge. And I went out. But I did say to her, thank you for your I imagine that what you're saying has good intentions along with it, but really, I just get to be I just get to be mom. I don't have to be diligent anymore because I was at one time. That kind of hyper vigilance that kicks in out of concern that we have for our children, or when anybody is harmed. Of course, we're going to do everything that we can within our power to try to help them heal and get along in life better. But we can't make it our sole purpose. And what happens when we're constantly adjusting somebody, they start to feel that they're being therapized, that they're wrong, that something about them is not okay. And this comes in so many shapes and forms. Even when somebody who appears different, and we look at them or don't look at them, we avoid them or we stare at them, we don't include them and invite them while we're engaging with other people and they're clearly feeling, left out and more so on the margins. This is harmful, for them. And my daughter just recently went through this. They're 26 now and they're finding their way and they're both happy young women, but they definitely don't have all the skills that a person needs to function independently in life. But they have other characteristics that I'm really proud of and happy to experience with them. So here's my unsolicited advice is that when somebody is in front of you or you meet someone who appears different and doesn't fit into the so-called normal package of what we think human beings are supposed to be like. And there's much more around these days that are celebrating difference. But rather than, just look or look away or stare or give advice, or even the worst one, that I hear that I think is really painful is to say, "Oh, I'll pray for you." And that doesn't mean I have anything against prayer. I think prayer is a very useful and beneficial tool. But when we put that on somebody else and we haven't even become curious about them, like, do they need our prayers? Or are you saying you pray for me because I'm so hopeless and beyond repair that I need so much help? That, and yeah, that really kind of, that one gets me. And then we can look inside of ourselves, when that urge comes to give advice or to say something that isn't really connecting to the person, isn't doesn't come with wonder and curiosity about who this person is and what their world might be like. Instead we can be curious about what is making me uncomfortable about what is in front of me, that I need to project whatever it is I'm experiencing on top of that person so that they can be different, so that I can be comfortable. Yeah, I mean, that's one part of it. And another part of it that, we're all kind of needing to deconstruct is how our cultures and societies and educational systems, families, everything, religion, is really holds kind of a status quo or a standard way of what a person is. Who fits into that? Nobody fits into it. I'm always much more interested in people who don't fit into boxes and are uniquely different. And when I allow myself to just be curious and really engage with people that appear so called different, and sometimes differences aren't even visible, until you actually begin to speak with somebody. But how interesting is that? To be curious and to have wonder and to invite somebody to enter into our world. Kind of the backlash of what happens when somebody is excluded and not invited and treated in a particular way. I see this with my daughter. I was going to talk about an experience, but she's very self-conscious. She knows that she's different. And so she can be out in the community and see somebody she knows, but have that person move away from her. And that happened recently. And I saw the impact that had on her. She kind of got really quiet and she came back home and just didn't want to go out to do anything for a bit. And I was really excited this morning. Was it this morning or last night when she said to me that she wanted to return to a conditioning class with her former dance teacher, which is a community that I think she had a lot of fun with, even though she didn't fit in a sense of not being able to keep up with the ballet steps and with how that whole form looks. But she gave it her best and she enjoyed being included. And the teacher was excellent in creating modifications for her and partnering her with other students and things like that, and being very inclusive. And that had a huge impact on her self esteem and her confidence, so much that she even participated in one of their big productions. So she went off today to return to a class, and she came back later very excited and wanting to get a new sweatshirt with the dance company lettering on the back, and started to talk about how she might audition again for one of the dance productions. And it took, though, she had to go through some time of recovery to come out of isolation. Now, here's for me, this is maybe not unusual, even for people who don't have obvious disabilities, but have mental health challenge, or just like we're all humans, we're all trying to sort out this sense of where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Who are my people? Where do I have camaraderie? Where can I receive inspiration and connect? We're connecting less and less and less. Here I am on this screen with you, and I have no idea who you are, or unless if you respond with a like and a comment, and then I'll get to hear something from you. But otherwise, I'm just talking into this uh, technological screen and hoping that it reaches you. So I hear right now my daughter is coming in, and I'm going to ask her to just hold on for a moment because I'm about to end a little video. But I think that's all that I have to say about this. So if you have a comment, please make your comment, and I love to read them. If you like this channel, like it and subscribe. Thank you for your subscriptions. And I'm on here once a week. I think I'm late this week, but I do get on here normally toward the end of the week and post something. So if this is beneficial to you, take a deep breath and appreciate yourself for who you are, and all of your uniqueness. Any way that you might show up different is actually something to celebrate. We need to celebrate more of our little quirks. And, this whole idea of normative, it isn't really, I could give a whole nother little spiel on where that comes from. But if we look at our history, we can see that a lot of what's been held up and centered is based on dominant behavior. And we're kind of pushed and driven to be something like that. And it's not suitable and it doesn't serve, and it's actually can be very harmful. So you take good care of yourself, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week, or at least hearing from you. Take good care. Have a beautiful weekend.